There's only one that I ever won, Barkley. 16,000 feet of elevation change in 20 miles. Yeah, and I was doing it under 3 hours. This isn't exactly the easiest conditions to be doing video.
No.
Weird light, rain.
Hopefully we'll get to see some of the trail work you guys have put down. Okay, so Flying Brian, tell me about your first trail work trip.
My first trail work trip, that's kind of hard to decide because I did a lot of trail work on my own vigilante style before I started doing real trail work. And people noticed what was happening on the Pine Ridge Trail here and there, and then they found me out there and they said, "Hey, you want to learn how to do trail work for real?" and I said, "Sure." But before that actually happened, then I was out doing vigilante trail work, and Betsy's group was out on the South Fork Trail when I was on the Big Sur Trail.
Okay.
And I could see him down there. So I just moved over to the South Fork Trail, started doing trail work. Didn't ask anybody, didn't realize I needed to sign any waivers. And Betsy was looking at the back end of the group, and she could see these branches flying off into the into the void. She came back to see what was going on. And I said hi. So it kind of evolved over time.
So it started as a vigilante and then became official.
Yep. I'm a trail runner, so I really love these trails, love the Ventana, but I really wanted to get the thing clear enough so that I could get some running done.
Absolutely. Okay, so that's a great answer to that question, and a good way to segue into kind of your running ultra chapter.
Yeah.
What came first, your running skill set or your backpacking skill set?
Backpacking was first. I was a Boy Scout and got into backpacking when I was a teenager. And although I did, occasional road run here or there, I was not what I would call a runner. And I really started taking up serious trail running as training for even more serious hiking. So backpacking first, through hiking second, serious through hiking third, and then the trail running was training for being a serious hiker.
Got it. I think, let's start with your first long trail, which I believe was the PCT. Yeah,
the Pacific Crest Trail was the first through hike for me.
And so what year did you do that?
That was 1997. That was
even pre-cell phones. Cell phones were like suitcases then, right?
Yeah.
And there just wasn't any cell towers.
Nobody had a cell phone then.
And did you have handheld GPS?
Not on that trip. I'm not sure if it even existed. By 2001, I had an E-Trex, the yellow one that would give you the latitude and longitude in numbers, so you could plug it on a map, and that's all it would do.
Right.
Here's the numbers where you are. Figure out what that means.
I mean, that was like my first GPS, and I thought it was amazing compared to triangulation.
It solved the hardest problem in navigation, which is where the heck am I right now?
Because you could be like down in the valley and plot a point on a map, which is without, because where we're at right now, triangulating is pretty quick, but you're not always up high with like line of sight. And when you're tired, like it takes you know how your brain goes when you're tired? At least mine does.
Yeah.
Like it takes because there's this piece with like triangulation navigation where you have to decide that like you're reading the topo and you're like, okay, that peak is that peak. Yep. You draw your line. If you put down a big day and you're trying to figure out where the hell you are, that sort of skill set I feel like it's pretty hard relative to
the transition.
Turning on a GPS and like drawing two lines off the grids on the side of the map.
The transition wasn't easy either because the maps that were used before GPSs were
that's right. They didn't
were not GPS accurate.
Right.
So I remember walking across New Mexico and trackless, not a lot of landmarks, little hills here, and I'm trying to figure out, which little drainage I'm in. And I am looking for this road, and I can't find it. And I get my GPS out so that I can figure out which direction it is. According to GPS, I'm on the road. It's like, okay, the map is not GPS accurate.
Because it was built before GPS.
Yep.
Okay, let's pause. I'm gonna try and clean the camera lens real quick. So you did the PCT 97. I have to say, so that was before the hockey stick curve, which I feel like was the, the book Wild came out, and then the trail changed forever.
Right. And the year that Cheryl Strayed hiked the PCT was 1996. The year before I was out there.
So you were in the same generation. That's a good point.
I actually know a lot of the people who appear in her book, even though they don't have their actual names. She changed their names, but I know a lot of people that she's talking about.
That year, 96, 97, probably less than 500 people finished. Do you know the numbers?
On the Pacific Crest Trail in 1997, there were 300 people who started, and around 100 who finished.
Okay. So, and I bet last year, I'm going to go ballpark here, I'm guessing around 2,000 started and probably 1,200 finished.
I think it's tenfold, for every person on the trail. In 97, there's probably 10 now. So
more people. Let's talk about the social scene a little bit. Did you form a trail family on your first trip?
Did I form a what?
Like a trail family?
Yeah, sort of. So in 1997, my dad wanted to hike the John Muir Trail section of the PCT with me.
Okay.
And we both decided that if I had 700 miles,
under your legs,
under my legs, and I'm 25 years younger, this was not going to make a good partnership. So he just decided to start with me at the beginning, and did the first half of the Pacific Crest Trail with me. So I had literally a trail family of my dad to start with, and we did end up joining up with various folks. I would say nobody for the entire time, or even the entire first half.
Okay.
It was harder to find a group of people that was exactly your pace. So people would, get together for a little while and then move on. Somebody would take an extra day in town or whatever. And I understand that still happens. But,
I feel like it does. For the technology of the two things, the Garmin InReach and Far Out.
Yep.
That's changed trail families because someone who hikes relatively, they may not hike your pace, so you may hike with them for like an hour a day, but because you can communicate on trail, you can always camp in the same locations.
Exactly.
You can share Airbnb. Is it sus? Yep, that was one.
Yeah, you can.
And
you can keep track of people now.
Right.
In 97, if somebody was ahead of you, you would know that if they signed trail registers and things.
Right.
If someone was behind you, you had no idea whether they were alive or dead. They were just, there was no information for about anybody behind you.
And I guess I just wonder how much that change increased the usage. The idea that I feel like people go into the long trail, especially if they've read some of the books, or if they've read Wild, they see this person who has this transformational experience. Yep. And they want a little piece of that.
You bet.
And I also think, just talking anecdotally, a lot of the European people and Americans were there in part for the social scene,
Yeah.
There was this sense of shared purpose, but there was also this critical mass. There was enough people starting every day that you could kind of find the people you wanted to hang out with and then kind of go on the journey together.
Yeah, it makes the difficulties easier to bear because you've got a community to share it with.
So with that let's transition to your Triple Crown. So you're legendary in the Ventana Trail community as the first person to do the Triple Crown, which I think for most backpackers they think is crazy. But now there's like, I think there's a handful of folks, they never even hiked a long trail and they start with the Triple Crown, and some of them actually succeed.
Right. Well, so I need to correct you a little bit. I wasn't the first Triple Crowner, but I was the first person to do the Triple Crown in 1 year.
There we go. Yeah.
And there was, I don't know, probably 5 people this year that completed the calendar Triple Crown. So it's become a thing.
Yeah, you're the first person who like kind of took it from a theoretical, like, okay, my physiology is kind of on par or on pace that this is theoretically possible. Let's go see, let's go test that in the physical realm and see if it goes.
According to the official list, there were 50 people who had completed the Triple Crown by 2001.
Oh wow!
And it's probably more like 100 because there's a lot of people in that era that.
But the calendar year Triple Crown was still 0.
Yeah, no, the calendar year Triple Crown was considered impossible. I mean, it's kind of hard to explain that today because it is so obviously possible. But one of the ways I gauged whether somebody had a clue about what I was trying to do was if they said, "Oh, that's nice, have a good time." I knew they didn't have a clue, because every Triple Crowner that I talked to said either that's definitely impossible or it might be possible if you were going to be a fully supported trail runner. And that wasn't even really a thing yet, but they were saying if you had somebody follow you around and you were running,
do all your logistics,
maybe you could do it. Other than that, they said no way.
And why do you think at that time the existing Triple Crowners thought that no one could do it?
Well, mostly it was the gear.
Okay.
The Triple Crowners were from the 70s and 80s at that point. A few from the 90s, obviously, but a lot of those people hiked in boots.
Okay.
They had external frame packs. They had really heavy gear. So they were basically saying you'd have to get rid of all of your heavy gear and run to be able to have a chance.
Right.
And it was with the dawn of ultralight. I was one of the original ultralighters because I could see that with this ultralight gear, you could do so many more miles, so much more easily.
So what was can you talk a little bit about your kit and what was kind of what year was your triple?
2001 was the year that I did the 3 trails in 1 year.
So I mean, a lot of this, in terms of material science, like you had the sil nylon, you had the down.
Yep.
But that, I feel like that kind of was around the time, like
it was there, but there wasn't a lot of gear that was made.
It was still like a lot of make your own gear, right?
Yeah, I mean, I had a Feathered Friends Hummingbird sleeping bag, which had been around for a long time, and
what
it's
did
still
that
around.
weigh?
It's still one of the better down sleeping bags that you can get.
Okay.
But my shelter was a homemade poncho tarp.
Okay.
So this was the era of make your own gear.
Yeah. I feel like the poncho's like bad at everything except being lightweight.
Yeah, a poncho tarp is a compromise.
It's a good ground mat too.
In every negative sense of the word. It's not great as rain gear, and it's not great as a shelter, but it sure is light.
It's very light. It's fine for a ground tarp. Those are the two things it does well.
But I used that for 300 days, even in the winter.
I did 8 days with one on the PCT, and it was like, oh man, this is a little gnarly for me.
Yeah.
So, how do you have if you don't remember exactly, that's okay. But were you in the traditional around 10, 15 pound base weight?
Yeah. My base weight to start with included snowshoes because I was on the Appalachian Trail in the wintertime.
Oh, okay.
So my base weight with snowshoes was, think about this, under 15 pounds.
That's impressive.
And in the summertime, my base weight was around 10.
Okay.
It depends a little bit on what you count as base weight.
Not food, I guess.
My dad was worried about me for obvious reasons, and we were still in the era where communication was not great.
Right.
So when Global Star called him up and offered me a free satellite phone and free unlimited service, he said, yes, he'll take it. So I had a 2-pound brick in my pack.
Oh, man.
That was a satellite phone, which came in handy because I was actually doing a lot of media interviews and things near the end, and it allowed me to actually communicate with people, do interviews by phone, even coordinate meetings at road crossings and things, and be able to tell them within an hour or two of when I was going to be there. Because again, this was before that stuff was easy to do.
Totally. I mean, and even then, like 2001, I mean, even up until like 2010, I want to say, like I went to college in the mountains of Colorado. You would have cell service in the small towns. There would be cell towers there.
Yeah.
But like you would drive over between the small towns and there was no cell service.
No, the coverage maps were didn't have as good a coverage at the time.
You basically had to be in a town.
I personally didn't even own a cell phone.
Oh, right. And then there's like, do you even have one? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was the thing too. Even like again, like handful of years after your trip, people didn't necessarily carry cell phones on trips because, I mean, even like right when I started guiding, that was kind of becoming more of a like. I actually argued against it. I was like, there's no service area here, except for when we're in town.
Right.
We can leave them in the van. Otherwise, we're not,
And the camera's another good example of technology.
Right.
Digital cameras were around. They weren't great, but I seriously considered bringing a digital camera. The problem was I didn't know how I was going to charge it. I didn't know how I was going to get the chips back to my dad so that he could get the pictures put on what turned out to be a blog. I had an online trail journal, which made me one of the world's first bloggers, but that wasn't even a word yet, at least not one that I was familiar with.
Right.
But I ended up going with a film camera because I could literally drop the film into the mail. It was just low tech, was easy to do.
Yeah, analog.
Yep.
And I bet that weighed. Was it like a disposable or?
No, it was one of the lightest point and shoot cameras around. I forget what it weighed, but it was 6 ounces maybe.
Got it. And okay, so you had this. I'm still like racking my brain around how like the ultralight for you was different because the technology was different.
Yeah,
a lot. If you're
carried
carrying
an
a camera
radio
and a
so
phone,
that I could get weather reports.
Oh, what were you carrying for weather?
An earbud radio.
An earbud radio. Yeah. So you had, all these single-use devices that are now in a smartphone, and you're inReach. Yep. Like an inReach weighs 105 grams, and even that's like the next thing to go.
Yeah. inReach wasn't a thing. If I wanted to have something like that, the only thing available in that time frame was a personal locator beacon.
Yeah.
And that's just something that like an airplane can tell what direction you're at.
Yeah, they're like broadcasting. I want to say like 406 megahertz.
That was not very useful.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely doesn't do two-way communication in terms of like over voice or text.
Yeah.
So what do you think the easiest thing was for you, and what do you think the hardest thing was for you on your Triple Crown?
Yeah, that's hard to say. I mean, I'd say the hardest thing that surprised me was dealing with the loneliness. Because even in 1997, I'd had a pretty good trail family. You got to know the people around you. I remember talking about Scott Williamson, who at that time was going by a trail name of Let It Be. He was trying to do a yo-yo, which is Mexico to Canada and back to Mexico on the Pacific Crest Trail.
Right.
It's actually what inspired me. But we talked about him because it was like, oh, this cool guy's doing this cool thing, and maybe we'll see him come in the other direction when he's coming back. It turns out we never saw him because he did bail.
Okay.
But I was on the other side of that in 2001. Everybody was talking about me, and I would run into people, not everybody, but some people would even know who I was and what I was doing.
Right.
But at the pace I was going, at like 30 miles a day, which was unprecedented, I was leaving everybody behind.
Right.
So I was solo hiking. I mean, even when I was among thru hikers, I was with different people every hour.
Yeah.
And it was hard. It was hard. And I'm very good at dealing with solitude, but that much solitude is not healthy and not fun.
When I think of what I think would be hard, that is one of a psychological dynamic of, isolation, loneliness is like the last thing I would think would come to mind, because I would think of it like, okay, an injury that like slowly gets worse, or for me, a challenge I have in ultra is eating enough. When I'm pushing hard, I just get nauseous when I eat and I throw up.
Yep.
So I feel like
I neither gained nor lost a pound the entire year. I started at 155 and ended at 155. So I obviously had the diet dialed in.
You had that box checked.
Yeah.
Here's a hypothetical. Had there been someone who was like, hey, let's try this together, do you think you would have been like, yeah, let's do it?
I certainly would have. Although it would have had to have been one of these partnerships of convenience where we both knew that if something happened to the other one was not going to sit around and wait for him.
Right. Keep going towards the big goal.
There was a duo of Triple Crowners that started an attempt on the calendar Triple Crown when I was in the last month just about to finish mine. In fact, I ran into them in Maine because they had started it at Mount Katahdin, which is where I finished, and they were just starting. So when they were in the first week of their hike, I was in the last week of mine, and they were joking about kneecapping me because they had been planning it for a while too, and they wanted to be the first. And it turns out they did not succeed, so they wouldn't have been the first anyway. But it was a thing whose time was coming. Right.
It would have. So if you didn't succeed, do you think it would have happened in the next 5 years?
Oh yeah. Because I wanted to claim a first, I kind of had to call my shot.
Yeah.
At the time, there was an AT-L email list, and there was a PCT-L email list where you could talk about trail things. And I announced my intention to do the calendar Triple Crown on all those lists, and got some interesting replies about better you than me, and you're nuts, and
you couldn't pay me to do that,
and a few things like that. But I because I was.
But you put your stake in the ground.
The kind of thing that I did is now what we call an FKT, a fastest known time.
Right.
And in fact, I set a fastest known time on the Pacific Crest Trail as part of my calendar Triple Crown.
Interesting.
I set one on the Continental Divide Trail, sort of, although it didn't really qualify because I broke it into two pieces, and that's not kosher. But as I say, I wasn't at home resting between the two sections of the CDT. I did the entire PCT at an FKT rate.
Right. And then switched
tacked
trails.
in the two pieces of the Continental Divide Trail immediately before and after that. So most people would say my 88 days on the CDT was a previous FKT.
Yeah.
But
it's just
now if you're going to set an
bananas.
FKT, you need to have a GPS track and prove that you did it. Back then, it was kind of like you had to just be believed.
Right.
So I called my shot just to make sure that people knew that I was going to do it.
Yeah. Okay. I do want to go back to the Triple Crown again, though, because I didn't ask. I was packing up. I was wondering, how did you cope with the isolation? Like, why wasn't there's so many ways the trail can go wrong? Like, why didn't that break your trip?
Well, the main reason is because I'm pretty much a loner anyway. So it was a fairly natural state for me to be in, but it was, I've described it as too much of a good thing.
Oh, okay.
My trail journal actually helped quite a bit because I would compose entries in my head throughout the day, and then when I was cooking my dinner, I would write pen and paper in my trail journal and mail that home to my dad periodically with the film canisters that we already talked about. So I kind of felt like I was, I had somebody to talk to, at least in a monologue sense.
Right.
And that helped.
Well, let me ask you this question. Do you think, you know, since you did the trail, there's been people who have, you know, kind of that have repeated it. There's been people who, you know, tell me have done the border to border. You know, there's a handful of folks who've done 10,000 mile years across this creek.
There's always another step. Both of those things actually occurred to me when I was doing my calendar year Triple Crown. I thought about, you know, you could do the entire Eastern Continental as well as the 2 Western Trails, and if you were going to do that many miles, you probably had enough months to get 10,000 miles in a year, but not at 40. Not when I really wanted to be the first person to do the Triple Crown in one year. It was, you know, it was more than enough to bite off, but those are natural extensions, absolutely.
Do you think there'll be someone who does the Triple Crown in a calendar year without flopping?
Without what?
Without doing a flop. So
it's already been done. The second guy to do the calendar year Triple Crown, Matt Hazley, a trail named Squeaky. He did each trail beginning to end, no flip flop, no flopping around, and I give him full kudos for that. Unfortunately, he thinks I didn't do the calendar year Triple Crown, thinks he was the first, but we've had to agree to disagree on that, but I give him full credit for doing it better and faster.
Yeah, I didn't realize anybody had been able to do it in a year and walk all 3 trails straight through without a flop.
Yeah, Matt started late in the year and actually finished, I think, with less than 2 days on the calendar. So,
careful, careful. Don't be like me. Oh man, those rocks are slippery right now.
Yeah, just as soon not fall in the water, right? Matt's amazing. When I heard how late in the year he started, I thought he hasn't got a chance. He waited way too long. But by doing that, he basically avoided winter and did all 3 trails in a very extended summer. And he finished, I believe he finished southbound on the Appalachian Trail. So he finished on Springer Mountain in Georgia in, I don't know, the 29th or 30th of December. I forgot exactly what day, but it was like real close. And I personally would have given him credit for a calendar year Triple Crown if he'd finished in January 1st or January 2nd. It's not in the same calendar year, but it's in a year.
Yeah. And so, you know.
There have been people that have done all 3 trails within a 1 year period that wasn't a calendar. And yeah, technically it's not a calendar year Triple Crown, but who cares?
We're kind of making it all up anyway.
Exactly.
But going back to strategy, his strategy was take a risk at not finishing by starting late, but all the snow is melted out, and then do your last trail hiking towards the equator.
And do big miles. I mean, you've got to do fairly big miles, but if you got 365 days, you can do the math, and if you had all 365 days, you could do it with less than a marathon per day.
Yeah, it's the other way to say that is you still have to do over 20 miles every single day.
Every single day, 365 days for an entire year. Yes, exactly.
That is, it's still a big chunk of change.
You know, I was not the fastest person to do the Triple Crown. In fact, I'm not aware of anybody that's done the calendar year Triple Crown without the extensions that did it in more than 300 days. So I think I'm the first and the slowest. But even I averaged 35 miles a day in peak summer months in Oregon.
Yeah,
so
that's
you got to
moving.
make hay while the sun shines, right?
Yeah. Okay, so transitions, kind of switching gears a bit to trail running.
Yeah.
After you did when did you kind of get into the 100-mile ultra scene, and how did that lead you to Barkley?
Well, when I did the Pacific Crest Trail in 1997, people were talking about Scott Williamson, who was doing the yo-yo on the PCT. We all thought he was going to do it, and he did eventually, but it was several years later. But we thought that was really cool, you know. how could you beat that? And the yo-yo had been done on the Appalachian Trail, and one of the answers was, well, you could yo-yo the Continental Divide Trail, but that wasn't substantially bigger. So the question was, you know, what's next, right? People were talking, right? And I remember people talking, and well, you could do like a yo-yo-yo or something, but you know, that's you know. Anyway, the obvious thing was the Triple Crown in 1 year, and it was like, and I remember the talk, because people were saying, well, yeah, that's the logical next step, but you know, the yo-yo is already so hard. Could you do 3 trails in 1 year? And the general consensus and the discussions that I was having in '97 on the trail was no. You know, but I went home and I thought about it, and I got out my spreadsheets, and I looked at how many months you'd have, and I looked at how much gear you'd have to carry if you had a really ultra lightweight pack. And I decided that if you could average at least 25 miles a day, you'd have a shot at it. And there was no reason why you couldn't get up into the 30s in some of the better months, at least in theory. I mean, nobody had ever hiked at that kind of a pace for that long. But I looked at it and said, yeah, I think it can be done. And I remember in my announcement on the Appalachian Trail -L email list, or the PCTL email list, I said, and if I can't do it, somebody can.
Right, right. You knew it was gonna go. But going back to were you trail running in an ultra sense?
Oh,
Train for that?
yeah. So '97, I did my through hike. I was thinking about the Counter Triple Crown because we'd been talking about it. I decided it was possible, and I started planning to do it. I was still working as a computer engineer in Silicon Valley. I was not ready to quit that job just yet, but I looked at my financial situation and other things and said, you know, about 4 years, I'll be in a position to do this. So I started, you know, collecting the maps and doing the logistics and thinking about it, and also training. And because I was working full time, you know, 60 hours a week, kind of full time in Silicon Valley, I didn't have the time to go out and do a 25-mile hike every other day, which is what would have been the ideal. Oh, look, we got a tree down. Wow. Well, let me see. Is this one we can clear? I think this is going to require a saw.
Yeah, that piece anyway. Do you want to do a little work, or do you want to just keep going?
Let's do a little work. Let's at least clean up this stuff. Okay.
So you got into ultra running as that was your training program for the Triple Crown, because you were working, and if you weren't working 60 hours a week, you could have just trained by backpacking.
Yep. And of course, then I fell in love with ultramarathon running too.
Yeah,
And of course, then I fell in love with ultramarathon running too. And it's a common thing. I mean, almost every calendar year Triple Crown person is also a very serious trail runner. I mean, it's just the skill sets are so similar. Actually, this whole piece could probably just go. Drag it part way out, and then we can. Are you just going to drag it the whole way out? You don't want to endo it? Okay.
So what was your first 100-miler?
It was actually the Tahoe Rim Trail 100. The very first time the Tahoe Rim Trail went from a 50 to 100. I was in there that year. I think we can push this over. Yeah, might need another leg or two to press this.
This just came down.
Yeah, it was not here. Brian, it's a lot of work too. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Oh man.
It's enough for now. People can easily walk around it now.
At least we weren't laying in poison oak.
I hope not. We're headed home, so wash the mud and the poison oak off at the same time.
So did you finish your first 100 miler?
I did, yeah. In fact, I was trying to win it.
Oh, wow.
I ended up being fourth because I really crashed and burned. But I was running in second place, trying to chase down Halicus. What's his first name? Anyway, he's a much better runner than I am. That was proven over the years. Better and younger and all of the above, but he wasn't very experienced. I was in my first 100. I had no idea whether I was overextending or not, but I tried to chase him down and ended up walking in the last 20 miles and still came in fourth place in about 20 hours.
You know, I feel like now it's, for the most part, it's the norm. You DNF your first 100.
I finished it. I just
Yeah.
didn't finish it running.
But you went in with the goal of winning, so I also don't necessarily think that's
That's not everybody, no.
that's not
But
that is not every ultra runner.
This was after my calendar Triple Crown, so I was already in my early 40s. If I was ever going to win 100, it was going to be soon.
Yeah,
There's only one that I ever won. You alluded to that a minute ago, Barkley.
Oh, right. Was that your so did you win, or I thought you just finished?
Well, I finished in a year when there was one finisher and I was that person. So I was first and last and average and all of the above.
So if anybody is watching that doesn't know Barkley, you should watch, I think there's a movie on Netflix now.
Yeah, there's a couple of really good documentaries. The Race That Eats Us Young, Where Dreams Go to Die. And there's also one called The Finisher, which tells you somebody finished, but I won't tell you who or under what circumstances, because you should watch it and find out.
Right. The gist of it is it's an ultra that's so hard. The idea is to make it just possible to win.
Yeah, every time somebody finishes it, it gets a little harder. The entry process is a secret. There's no aid stations, no course markings. You have a map. Some of it's cross country. It's got incredible amounts of vertical. Even when I did it, there was more than 100,000 feet of vertical, and it's up to about 125,000 feet of vertical right now.
And how many miles did you put over 100K of vert in? Was it around 100?
So I was arguably the first person to log their training in feet of elevation gain.
Okay, yeah, because this was pre, like, when the watch automated it for you, right?
Yeah, when I was training for that, people would talk about, oh, some people do 200-mile weeks, right? Some people do 100-mile weeks, some people will do 70-mile weeks, but it was always about how many miles per week do you do? And I think that that's a reasonable measure for most ultramarathon running. But, if you're trying to be a road ultramarathoner and be really fast, you've got to do some track work. That's never been my thing, but that I would certainly argue that would be critical if you want to be fast and have running efficiency. But for something like Barkley, you've got to be this uphill and downhill beast. I logged my vertical. I counted both the ups and the downs. Most people just count the ups now, but unless you're doing point to point, it's it's the same amount of down as up. I think my peak training week had something like 40,000 feet of elevation change, which is less than half of what you're going to do in 2.5 days of the Barkley. So it's barely enough to be
But where were you training that? What was your training location? Were you in Monterey
Yeah,
still?
I lived in Monterey, so I went to Garland Park in Carmel Valley, which is known for its scenic beauty and for the steepness of its uphills and downhills. And I had a loop that basically connected all of the steepest hills I could find. And I think I had about 16,000 feet of elevation change in 20 miles.
Oh man, that'll get you there.
Yeah, and I was doing it under 3 hours. So
Oh boy,
that's cruising. I was running downhill as hard as I could.
What is were you training on Cone Peak at all in
I mean, I was doing Cone Peak in that same time frame, but given that Cone Peak was 45-minute drive to the south and 45 minutes back, and that a lot of that is essentially off trail. There's a pretty good use trail, but that's not. I mean, yes, it's hilly, but I mean, if you did one 26-mile loop on the Cone Peak trails, you'd still only get about 10,000 feet of total elevation change, maybe 12 by the time you added some of the repeat up and downs. I was doing more than that just in Garland Park. So
what was the transition like to, I guess, this chapter of your life where I feel like you're pretty deep into the trail work community? Yeah. You're over, it's December now when we're recording this, but you're over 20 trail work trips this year, which I'm pretty sure puts you up there with Betsy.
yeah, I'm 64 now, so I don't do much trail running anymore. I certainly don't race anymore. But given how much I've done on trails over my life, I've always felt that trail work is critical to what I do. I always thank trail workers whenever I see them, and I always think, one of these days I'm going to do trail work. And that day arrived, shortly after I turned 50, because at that point, I'd already finished Barkley, and I went through the usual injury cycle that people have from time to time. It didn't have anything to do with Barkley, but I ended up with a sprained ankle that took me quite a while to come out the other end of. And once I did that and tried to get back into trail running, it was clear that I was just never going to be in the same shape as I was. I was definitely over the hill. So I said, yeah, this thing that was always going to be someday, it's like, let's go do some trail work. And I did it in my backyard, in my favorite place to go do a really long run. The Garland Park stuff I was talking about was kind of like my I won't call it track work because it's not speed work, but it was my specific hill work, right? I was doing the same thing every time, and it's beautiful, and it's not a horrible place to run, but doing the same run over and over and over again is not ideal for having fun. Right. It's good for comparing your level of fitness, what's your maximum heart rate in various places, and what's your overall time, and are you getting faster, and all those things. But whenever I wanted to go out and do a long, slow distance run, I almost always would go to the Ventana. I love the Ventana. It's really great for trail running, except for the brush. So I said, yeah, I've got a place and a time and an opportunity and an obligation. Let's go do some trail work. And I love it. It's really wonderful. I mean, I don't know how much you can see in the video, but covered in mud because we've been doing trail work in the rain this morning.
And we're walking through a trail that's here now.
Yes, exactly. All the trail that you're seeing is stuff that we've worked in the last few months.
We're not swimming through brush as you can definitely do here, because all the work's been done.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to hold the camera steady if we were doing a real schwack in the Ventana.
No, we would be crawling.
Exactly.
When you're crawling through brush tunnels that you don't know if you're going to get through.
Exactly.
Why have you prioritized this wilderness as opposed to, other trails? Not that it's wrong to do trail work anywhere. I think people should do trail work wherever they want to do it. But you could sign up for trail work with Santa Cruz Mountain Trail Stewardships, get coffee, get breakfast, work for half a day, get a nice hot shower at the end. Like, why did you know?
Well, I did some work this last summer with the Pacific Crest Trail Association.
Oh, nice. How was that?
Where they packed us in and fed us, and it was cool. I mean, it was great, you know. But trails like the John Muir Trail, Pacific Crest Trail, even most of the Santa Cruz Mountains trails, they get enough work. I mean, there's plenty of people around. The thing about the Ventana is, number one, I mean, look at it. It's positively gorgeous. It's not well known. It's kind of a hidden gem. In my opinion, this could be a national park. And it's in my backyard, right? I can hit the nearest trails in the Ventana in less than 45-minute drive from my front door. So it's not like going to the Sierra Nevada, which would be 4 to 5 hours, or even Santa Cruz Mountains is going to be an hour by the time I hit an actual trail. So it's convenience, it's need, right? Monterey is one of the biggest communities anywhere near the Ventana. It's not that big of a town, and it's my hometown. So, you know, this is my backyard.
Yeah. Did you grow up in Monterey?
No. But I've lived here since 2006 or so.
So enough time to.
This is my adopted home.
Adopted home. Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, it's absolutely phenomenal.
Speaking, you know, as another person who loves the Ventana.
I mean, coastal California is just unbeatable. I've been a lot of places now, and there's just no place like coastal California.
Of all the places you saw, all the trail towns, what would be your number 2 and number 3 if you were to if you say you were to live in a trail town that you saw?
Yeah, if I was going to live in a trail town, I'd say number 1 would probably be the Tahoe area. Okay. Pacific Crest Trail goes right through there. It's also California. Tahoe is really an amazing place because it's a big lake and you're fairly high elevation, and you do get snow in the wintertime. You don't get a lot of snow. So lots of outdoor activities that are available there. I really like the Pacific Northwest. My family's from the Pacific Northwest, so there's places like Bend, Oregon that are very near the Pacific Crest Trail that I would definitely consider living in. And then there's, you know, the Continental Divide Trail goes through Colorado. So Boulder, Colorado is not right next door to the Continental Divide Trail, but it's an easy drive. Yeah. And there are towns that are right on top of it if you want to be a little higher and deal with a lot more snow and cold in the wintertime. So yeah, there's a lot of good places.
I'll kind of put the camera on myself for a little bit here.
Sure.
I came into the trail work community in the VWA a handful of years ago, and I don't know.
We're glad to have you, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, it's super fun.
And not just because you do videos.
Yeah.
You do a hell of a lot of work.
It's my jam.
Yeah, exactly. There's not many of us that think this is cool, but here we are on a rainy day.
And maybe because, you know, it's just like all relative to like what people's fun is, right? Like I get a lot of joy and meaning, like personal meaning at like a deeper level, you know, when I think about my connection to nature, my sense of place, being out here with people who I feel like are my tribe. You know, we have a lot of the same values when it comes to public land, maintaining access to public land by maintaining trails so that people can come out here and hopefully connect with this place and love it like we do. And yet when I started this, I just like assumed like it became my new hobby, right? Which has been great. And I thought it would be like, I guess I was naive. I thought, get across that creek. I thought it would be like mountain biking during COVID, you know, where like, and to compare UWA to Santa Cruz Mountain Trail Stewardship, like I saw that organization go from, you know, a handful of volunteers on a dig day and sequel demonstration force to like their volunteer events fill up in minutes. And for some reason I thought we'd have a similar arc. And when I unpack it, I realize there's a lot more there, because we're, you know,
You're closer to many more people in the Santa Cruz Mountains.
and they're day trips, right? The barriers to entry are lower.
The reason I love the Ventana is this is a real wilderness. I mean, people have died in this wilderness. That's not a good thing, but it tells you that this is seriously wild.
We're out here.
Yeah, this is out here.
And so you really need that. I think it's tough. I know a lot of like really cool backpackers who are comfortable in that skill set. And I know other people who are like in the ultra community who do trail work to like enter races now, as you do. But the people I know who like to combine the two skill sets of wilderness backpacking and in a place that's not, you know, I won't sugarcoat it. It's not easy. Like Ventana is up, it's down, it's hot, it's cold. Like we've had gorgeous weather this weekend, but gorgeous relative to like, hey, we're hiking out in light, misty rain, not dumping rain, you know, not snow.
Ventana is actually best in the wintertime if you pick a dry window.
Yeah, it's incredible.
I mean, it'll snow in the highest peaks, but it won't stick for very long. And most places, you're just going to get rain, even at the worst. So, yeah, wintertime it's not that hot. It's not buggy at all. You might have a tick or two in early winter. By late winter, it's starting to be tick season. But wintertime is the best time to go as long as you're able to pick a window where the weather's decent.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, we're out here on this weekend. We cut it one day short because we know it's going to rain cats and dogs starting tonight.
And we'd have a pretty marginal river crossing. Area Seco goes from a boulder creek that we can walk across safely.
And we've had 2 days where it was predicted to be rainy, just not torrential rain. Yesterday was great. This day was not too bad, but it's rainy.
So how would you pitch, because now like backpacking still I think is in vogue, in that, you know, like we finally, like, even nothing's easy in Ventana. We got Pine Ridge in, you know, when I think of the around 15 years I've lived in the Bay Area, a lot of those years Pine Ridge wasn't in, whether it was closed for fires, rain damage, monsoon damage. But that's kind of I would call it the intro trail in the northern part of the Los Padres, certainly the Ventana.
Yeah, the Pine Ridge Trail is the equivalent of the John Muir Trail to the Sierra. The Pine Ridge is that to the Ventana Wilderness.
Most weekends we got, I would say the parking lot's full. You show up at 8 o'clock at the parking lot on Highway 1 for Pine Ridge, it's going to be full. The other side, not.
Most people are headed for Sykes Hot Springs, which is an amazing place.
Yeah. So how would you, I guess, what is a good recruiting strategy to get some of those backpackers on these trail work trips?
You know, I'm not sure you can recruit. I think what the ultra running community is doing is really good. They're saying, look, there's a group of people who will probably have the physical and mental and situational wherewithal to potentially be good trail workers. Let's force them to at least try it.
Yeah, as part of an entry.
Because most people are not going to want to do trail work. I totally get it. But, you know, there are some who want to do so. And how are they supposed to know that if they never get a chance to try it?
So maybe that's the pitch, is if you like Ventana, do one trail work trip a year.
Yeah.
And find out if you like it. And if you don't, still do one a year.
If you like any backpacking anywhere, you're using trails. So do some trail work, you know. If you're not going to do it immediately, like I didn't do it immediately when I was training for things like Barkley, you know, put it on your bucket list. It's high on your bucket list. And do it when you've got an opportunity. I mean, most people that do trail work are either relatively young or relatively old, same as thru hikers, right? Because in midlife, especially if people have kids, it's like, yeah, you got to make trade-offs. I never had kids, but outdoor pursuits and being as good as I possibly could was my driving passion for about a decade. And I was only able to do it as effectively and intensively as I did because I didn't have any kids. So even I, after doing trail work from age 50 plus.
Well, I want to look back, I want to bring it to the trail a little bit. So this trail specifically, we're close. I feel like we're around a mile left to get it in the green.
This is the Marble Peak Trail. This is also one of the major connector trails within the Ventana.
And if we get this in the green because it's a connector, then all these other
It
red
opens up
trails
loops. Yep.
couldn't be.
And we have about a little more than 6/10 of a mile before we have a golden spike ceremony, which will be pretty cool.
So if you want to be a part of that,
Yeah.
look on the meetup, click on the link.
Yeah, we have a meetup group. Search for Ventana on Meetup, Ventana. I think it's the only Ventana meetup group that there is, but it's Ventana Wilderness Alliance, which is the nonprofit that we work through. The Ventana Wilderness Alliance has an agreement with the Forest Service that allows us to be the equivalent of the Pacific Crest Trail Association to the Pacific Crest Trail. And we organize volunteer trips, and we are considering, I won't say planning, but considering some paid trips if we can get that to work, but that requires money and that requires the organizational wherewithal to have paid trail crew.
Oh, right, paid trail crew.
But right now, almost all trail work in the Ventana is done by volunteers. There are some contract crews that work with the Forest Service right now, but mostly they're doing remediation after fires. So a trail that's been through a fire, you might think, well, that's great, the fire cleared it all out. And yeah, that's true, but brush grows back after fires.
With a vengeance.
A lot of the brush out here is what we call fire followers, which means, well, every plant and even every animal on Earth has a way that it survives. Human beings survive because we're intelligent. A lot of the brush around here survives because it thrives with fire. There's plants that are specifically extra flammable, and you might think, how can that possibly be an advantage? Well, the reason is because they promote fire, they promote hot fire, which burns everything, and then they know their kids are going to come back first. Or sometimes the roots will survive and they'll literally grow back from the roots. And we see that all the time. So it turns out immediately after fire is a really important and particularly tough time to do a lot of trail work, because you're going to get thousands and thousands of little seedlings growing everywhere, trying to reclaim that acreage. And unfortunately, a trail looks like the bare land after a fire. So every fire follower plant looks at a trail and goes, oh, mine, if I can get there first. So it's always coming from all sides.
So do you have trail work goals for next year, or is it kind of just integrated into your life outside of the year and you just...
At this point, it's kind of integrated into my life. When I first started doing this, I really wanted to get the Big Sur loop open, which has now been open for more than 5 years. And it's an amazing loop.
So incredible. And the artery of that loop is Pine Ridge Trail.
It's one of the ways that people discover the Ventana these days, because it's a very popular loop on all trails.
Yeah, you can do it in 3 days.
Yeah, it's a really nice
mellow
3-day
time.
Backpack trip. If you're a trail runner like I was, it's a really wonderful 1-day trail run.
Yeah, it's a big day.
It's a big day, but
but it's doable.
It's in the mid-20s.
Yeah, I would say yeah, you're probably right. It's in the miles are easy.
Actually, no, the whole Big Sur loop,
Is it
depending on where
33
you start
miles?
and stop, is going to be around 30 miles.
Yeah, but the miles are still easy.
Yeah,
it's
well,
the climbing.
It's good trail.
Yeah.
If you do want to come to the Ventana, I would recommend getting familiar with bigsurtrailmap.net. There's a link to it from the Ventana Wilderness Alliance page, which is ventanawild.org. but there is a online map that Jack Glendenning maintains that will, by color code, show you the condition of the trail itself. Green is Wilderness Freeway, yellow is pretty good, orange is pretty bad, red is really bad, and black is a trail that you might find on a map somewhere, but it doesn't really exist. So before you plan a trip in the Ventana, I would recommend checking out what you want to do on Jack's map, BigSurTrailMap.net, because that will tell you whether or not you can get through or not. Unfortunately, there's still a lot of trails that we would love to get to, but we just don't have the manpower. I would say after we get done with the Marble Peak Trail, we need to do another pass on the South Fork Trail. That should be relatively quick. And then beyond that, there's a big section of the Carmel River Trail which really needs to be done. Maybe we would do that. Several of us would love to do the Blackcone Trail too, which hasn't seen trail work in about 15 years. And you can imagine how bad that is by now.
I met a vigilante working on it.
Yeah, there are people that do vigilante trail work like me. You know, and to any vigilantes out there, I say, great, you know, try to do more good than harm. There are ways you can harm a trail, so be careful. And even if you want to be a vigilante trail worker, I'd recommend come join us for a trip or two and we'll show you how to do it right.
Totally. That was, I would say that was putting the camera back on myself. My biggest, the thing I messed up the most in my vigilante chapter was I didn't know what I was doing wrong.
Yeah, nobody does. I didn't.
So unfortunately, like a lot of the work I did didn't last long.
Yeah, most people think that
Just
you know,
not
there's
knowing
brush
how
in
to
the
cut,
trail,
yeah.
right? And the ones you're worried about is kind of like at head level and you know, from here to here. Basically, if you hit a jumping jack, anything you could hit with your arms, most people just go through and cut a tunnel and call it good. And
It's good for like 6 months.
I get it, yeah, but these are fire followers. Yeah. These things are designed to grow fast into open areas. Yeah. If you don't kill the plant that's generating those fronds, it will grow back within 3 months.
Totally. Especially on the northern slopes and the river drainages.
Yep. And you know, if you wanted to go back to your trail every 3 months and do what I call mowing the lawn, be my guest, but by doing trail work at about, you know, 5 times slower, you're spending 5 times as much effort as a quick pass, it'll last 10 to 20 times longer. Yeah. So it's more efficient to do a better job.
And it took me a few trips to like kind of figure that out. Because I was like, oh man, we just spent 3 days and we did 1/10 of a mile. But then realizing, you know, that 1/10 of a mile is going to stick around, and it's better to work at that pace and spend a year on a trail and not even get it totally in, than to do it wrong and then it's just not, you know, it's 1 step forward, it's 2 steps back.
And that doesn't even talk about doing tread work. Yeah. And unfortunately, a trail that has brush on it will have people walking off the trail to get around the brush. I get it, I do it too. But that really wrecks the tread. So another thing you got to do is you got to fix the tread. So you got this nice, level place to walk, place that it will drain efficiently and not get rutted. All these things are difficult and specialized skills that, you know, we as a trail crew have. And again, the Ventana's had major fires many times in the last 20 years. At least twice the entire thing is burned down. After a fire, if there's a heavy rainstorm, the land cannot soak up any water, or not enough water, not as much water as it's used to. So you get much more runoff on a heavy
Is it called
winter.
pyroclastic flow? Is that the term?
Pyroclastic would be volcanism,
Okay.
but you can literally get mudslides in worst case conditions. You can certainly get washouts, right? What we see with our trails that have been through fires multiple times, which is all of them, is if you get to any sort of a little side creek that almost never has a lot of high flow, we'll come through and there'll be a 2-foot canyon in there because the water came through and washed the trail out. So we have to put in a rock wall and fill it back in, and you know, all of these things are specialized skills. You know, when I was a vigilante trail worker, I would bring a little handsaw and I could cut some things, but we have major trees in the Ventana that come down on a fairly regular basis. And this is a wilderness area, so when a tree comes down, we can't use a chainsaw. So we have Sawyers that have crosscut saws, special training, special certification. If you want to do a particularly fun trip, sign up on Meetup, Ventana Wilderness Alliance Trail Crew, for a saw trip. You won't be a certified sawyer unless you bring your own certification, but you can hold the other end of the saw with me because I'm a certified sawyer. And we get a lot more people for saw trips than we do for regular brushing trips. So
Yeah, the saw trip was, you know, putting the camera on myself, it was a bit of a gateway for me. You know, I'm not as saws obsessed as Robert Parks, who I've talked to on the video before. But it's so fun. It's so cool to use these old tools.
it's also very dangerous.
Yeah, you gotta.
Which is part of why it makes it interesting, right?
But we keep it safe. You know, we're trained
we keep it safe.
We follow. If you follow the training, it's very hard for you to not understand the risk. There is still inherent risk, but you know how to manage that because of the training.
There is, but you know, hopefully you see it coming, right? And if you see it coming, you can avoid it. And there are trees that even Robert has left in the wilderness. There's one that I just heard somebody was calling it the what do they call it? The giant squid. There's a trail on the Pine Ridge Trail that if you know what you're looking at, you can say, oh my God, that's a hell of a tree. And even Robert Parks said, nope, no can do. Not without specialized equipment, which we don't have. So we just built a trail around it.
Although I do hope to get more, I want to bring some of my rigging skill set to the VWA.
Yep, that's the kind of thing that you would need to do.
Because I was talking with Betsy about this yesterday. You know, taking the metal out of systems, cooling systems, has come a long way with like synthetic winch line and synthetic shackles, and that's made the gear much lighter, stronger than steel by weight, and it's safer. You know, when a steel cable on a grip hoist breaks, you know, that's like a gun exploding. It's super dangerous.
Some of these trees are so big you can't reach the saw on both sides.
Yeah, yeah, but the redwood grows for sure.
If you are watching this video, you're obviously on Buck's channel. Look up the one where we sawed a 6-foot redwood.
Yeah, I'll put a link to it.
What's the name of that one called?
I think it's like Finding the Mother Tree.
Finding the Mother Tree or something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I'll link it.
Yeah. That one is classic.
That was incredible. The only reason I was able to get it on film was because you couldn't cut it in one day. It took 3 days to get it out.
Well,
and I was fortunate enough to be there for 2 of those.
Early on day 2.
Yeah.
And we finally cleared it early on day 3.
Oh, this is so incredible.
That was a hell of a job.
Yeah.
But we could not reach the saw on both sides at the same time.
Yeah.
Until we built up a platform out of the bark of the tree.
And it was one of Robert's. It's one of Robert's longest saws.
Yep, it's an 8-foot saw. I think you mentioned it's a 9-foot saw.
Yeah.
It's not.
I thought it was actually a 10-footer, and he corrected me.
Yeah.
But even at 8 feet, we had like inches to spare.
Well, that was the thing, right? I mean,
Yeah.
they do make 10-foot saws, and I think Robert has one. I don't think he's ever used it, but that might have been the tree to use a 10-foot saw on.
Yeah.
Although we might not have been able to reach the tree on both sides with that because we'd be too far away from our platform. So
Yeah.
the 8-foot saw worked, but for people that are not Sawyer fluent, if you think about an 8-foot saw and a 6-foot tree, there's a piece of the saw in the middle that's going back and forth that's never coming out. That means the chips can't come out. So the only way you can make that work is by doing a seesaw method. And if you look at the video carefully, you can see we're doing a bit of a seesaw method with the saw. But that meant that saw was barely big enough for that tree.
And we ended up cutting all the way through it 3 times, right?
Yeah, almost 4 if you count the air gap. You mentioned the air gap a little
wedge,
bit,
yeah.
but you didn't get into that in a lot.
We'll have to do another episode with you and Robert, and where we just like rehash that.
Rehashing it, yeah.
Because it's worth like a vlog in itself.
The obvious question you get is, why didn't you just cut it twice and have the piece come out?
Yeah.
And the reason is because you'd have to angle the cuts quite a bit to do that. And our saw wasn't big enough to angle the cuts that much. So we angled them as much as we could. And unfortunately, the pieces didn't come out. They didn't cooperate.
Yeah, oftentimes a cut plan is evolution, you know, you're problem solving as the problem unfolds.
Yeah, and as you mentioned in the video, it's the largest tree any of us have ever cut.
Yeah.
Even Robert.
And there's not many, I say this often and I'll keep saying it, there's not many that big left in the Ventana. I mean, there's not many that big left in California relative to 100 years ago.
Correct. And we've had other trees that were that big or bigger that we considered trying to cut, but it was always easier to route the trail around it than cut it. That particular one, there's like there's no way around it.
Yeah.
That one just
we would have had to move the trail like 100 feet up a hill or 100 feet down a trail.
There was no way.
It was just not going to happen.
The trail's going through the only reasonable shelf in that whole hillside.
It would have been, we had to do it that way. Well, anyway, I think that's a good place of Vinny to wrap up. I want to take my sweaty rain gear off.
I know.
I'm like past that, smelling like a wet dog.
I just took my
gloves
gloves off because it is getting warm.
Japanese fishing gloves. I'm gonna buy some of those.
Yeah, these are wonderful.
But yeah, thank you so much for talking on the trail blog and being one of the handful of volunteers who's in the over 20 trips a year club. I think that's a pretty...
Yeah, I think this is my 25th trip of the year in the Ventana.
Oh
if you
my
don't
gosh.
count the 2 in the Pacific Crest Trail.
But that's close to 30 for backpack-based trail work in California. It's incredible.
Well,
so,
it gets me out backpacking regularly. That's one of the things I like about it.
And volunteering, you know, putting the...
Having fun and doing some good, but that's a pretty nice combination.
Totally. All right, that's a good way to end this. Having fun and doing good.